we are reaching the end of my 13 Days of Halloween series. We kicked it off with Little Monsters, and then we went on to Lake Mungo, then we did Friday the 13th, then Oculus, then It Comes at Night, The Visit, The Lighthouse, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Rosemary's Baby, and today is the 30th of October, and we are going to do Trick or Treat, which was originally going to be my finale of this series. This was going to be on Halloween. I was going to finally watch, after all this time, Trick or Treat, a movie that I've been so excited to watch forever. This has been on my list for probably about the past 2 Halloweens, and I didn't do it last year because it was originally on my list, but I only got 9 movies into my series, so I wasn't able to get it there. And so I'm finally doing it here. I finally watched this movie, and I think I have a new favorite Halloween movie of all time. I loved this movie. It is almost perfect. It is just... Man, it was not what I was expecting. So yeah, this was originally supposed to be my finale of the series, but I do get to see Dr. Sleep later tonight, so look out for my review coming out tomorrow for that movie. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be an awesome finale, a movie that is... The Shining is my favorite horror movie of all time, so reviewing the sequel for my finale for my 13 Days of Halloween series is awesome. But let's get into Trick or Treat, which is a movie that I truly, absolutely loved, and it honestly... It was not what I was expecting. So if you have not seen Trick or Treat, I'm going to say a little bit of the premise of this movie. I do not want to get into spoilers in this video, even though I have in a few past previous videos. But I feel like this is a movie that hasn't been seen quite enough or quite as much as it should have. So I'm highly recommending this movie. Essentially what it's about is it's about 5 different standalone stories that all kind of sort of just barely weave into each other in just these very creative and interesting ways. It's directed by Michael Dougherty, who did Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I was not a fan of, but you know, earlier in his career when he has a small budget horror movie, this movie was awesome. I loved every single one of the 5 storylines. And what's so great about this movie and why it really seems to be my favorite Halloween movie is it hits on every single genre, I guess every single subgenre of horror. There's horror comedy, there's paranormal stuff, there's kind of supernatural things, but there's also just simple, trick-or-treating Halloween fun. The opening scene reminds me a lot of the original Halloween movie, and it's so well directed. He does such a great job helming this movie and all these different storylines and weaving everything together. The pacing in this movie is incredible. You are never bored throughout the entire, I think it's slightly over an hour and a half, but you never get bored of it. Every single storyline draws you in, although you never get to go deeply invest into a character. There's nothing quite deep like that besides maybe the Red Riding Hood, the girl who plays that. There's an interesting backstory to that is just fascinating, completely unpredictable, and I just love that entire storyline. But you never really get to dig deep into characters. Another standout story to me was Dylan Baker, who plays this principal named Steven, and his entire storyline is just... This is where I think the horror comedy comes in, because when he's first introduced and he's in this very awkward situation with this kid, I don't want to say any more than that, but when he's in this awkward situation, it is very, very funny, even though it's very dark material. My God, the material is so dark in this storyline, but it is so funny just the way he's trying to maneuver around the situation that he's in, and it's so good. His character is just great. I loved this part as well, equally as much as I did with Laurie's character, which even the Little Red Riding Hood Laurie character, her name is Laurie, and in Halloween her name was Laurie Strode, so you can see the parallels with Halloween in this movie. There's also this cool storyline with a bunch of kids who are going trick-or-treating, and they're kind of trying to collect jack-o'-lanterns. For some weird reason, that they make excuses like, oh, this is for some good cause, we're collecting them for some scavenger hunt, but really they have something a little bit more strange planned with these jack-o'-lanterns, and their storyline was really fun as well. I think this is one of the more fun, interesting, and just twist upon twist. You think one thing happens and then the opposite happens, but then the one thing does happen, and it's a crazy fun storyline. And the end of the storyline is awesome with this one character. It's great. I'm being super vague, I know, but it's just, I want to touch on all these little storylines, because even this group of kids, you get 0 character development with any of them. One of them is kind of a complete jerk. Another one is kind of sweet to this quiet girl who shows up as a witch, and it's just... And the other ones are just kind of in the background, but it's really funny, and it's really... I don't know, it's just such a... They weave it together so well, and how this ties into some of the other storylines, which is really what I want to touch on with this particular storyline. And it's so masterfully done. I'll mention him again, Michael Dougherty does a great job getting some solid child performances out of these actors. But not only that, but just weaving this storyline and writing this script in such a creative and just very interesting way, and I think it's one of the best written scripts I've watched in a movie in a long time. And this movie, like many others, makes a great choice of tying their beginning to their ending in a nice little bow, a nice little arc, a nice circle that all wraps up in a nice, just satisfying way with this the Pumpkinhead character, which is really creepy. You see this guy just kind of wandering around throughout the entire movie in every single different storyline, and it's great. And there's this awesome scene with Leslie Bibb. That's the opening scene. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of Halloween, especially with the perspective shots you get of Pumpkinhead, kind of looking around, walking around, seeing this couple that are trying to go to bed, and it's an interesting opening scene that just draws you in immediately. And of course, the end act, the final moment of this movie, the final, like, I guess, confrontation with Pumpkinhead is awesome with this old guy living in this house. I loved every second of that sequence. Got a little Home Alone action in there. It was just a lot of fun. This movie was a blast to watch. It has so many different horror subgenres I didn't think would mix well together, but it just feels so good. You're in a small town, you're on Halloween nights, people are trick-or-treating, and all these weird different storylines. There's monster storylines, some paranormal storylines, some just bizarre serial killer type storylines. There's a bunch of different things in this movie, something for everybody. It feels like a slasher at times, a monster movie at times. It is just the perfect movie for Halloween, because if you don't know whether or not to watch, Halloween or A Quiet Place or Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, just put it on Trick or Treat, because it has a little bit of everything. So that is my review for Trick or Treat. Definitely go seek this movie out. It's on AMC. It's a little bit censored, unfortunately, but I think I'm going to end up buying this movie because it is just perfect. I'm going to watch this every Halloween for sure. I love this movie. Thanks, guys, for watching this review. 13 Days of Halloween series is almost up. We have one more day with Dr. Sleep, so subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you all in my next review.